Alright, hello and welcome to Bevo's Tech Back, episode number 58. I'm Moar28 and I'm running a little late here actually. Just as a heads up, you might notice there are some things have been a-changing around here. I've actually been trying to work on a project for the better part of the past day, but I've been running into a few issues. I hate my internet provider. It's, if you have Roadrunner, you might know how much I loathe and hate them. Yeah. Anyway, so my internet's been capped at a blazingly fast 2.4 megabits per second, which is it's something special, and it's also exceedingly annoying. Anyway, I've been getting a lot of disconnects and stuff while trying to play on here and trying to get some stuff built, and I've not gotten as much as I had wanted to get done. So what we're going to be going ahead and looking at now, I had originally planned to have a little bit further along, but you know, really I might as well show the intermediary steps to the process instead of just the end. We're going to go ahead and go up to our little tower here, and we're going to go to the, what floor is that? The 4th floor. Alright, so let's see. Nothing has changed in the library or the villager area. Oh, I figured out why this is broken. I actually need to replace the doors. I had accidentally hit the villagers, and I believe that we have to rebuild the village for it to work right again. Alright, so here's where things change. You might notice that there is a reactor in this room, and there's nothing else. I'm in the process of converting this into my ore processing room, take 2. This includes moving the reactor here. This is actually set up for steam. We'll be using the steam to power the machines in here. And we're doing that mainly because I don't want to tap into my main power grid for it. Plus, I think it'd be kind of neat having a centralized steam power production thing in here. I'm not too terribly worried about getting in and out, though, either, because really I can still use the elevator block here. So, I mean, this goes right through the reactor, and we still can go up to the roof. So everything still works good for that. What we're going to be doing in here, let's get back down here. Right now, I'm just going to be putting down some flooring, some walls, and I'm not sure about the roof. I probably need to change it, but I don't know what to change it to. But after we get all that stuff installed, I'm going to go about setting up some, I don't want to say bays. Bays sound like a silly word. Some, well, bays. I need to set up a station for every type of ore that I want to process. If we go ahead and the easiest way I know of searching for it is by dirty. Yeah. So it's that's still kind of clumpy. I think reduced might actually hit more. Alright, so I need to set up a station for every one of these metals that can be processed. I think what I might do is that for some of these, I know I probably won't need to run through here. I mean, like for cobalt and ardite and stuff, there's really no point in running it through here. At no point will I need that much manilion. The same thing goes for platinum. I'm not going to get platinum ore. Actually, you know what? I am going to get platinum ore. I forgot about that. What I'm not going to worry about, though, is like the uranium. Yellowite I'll process because I'm using it, but aluminum, okay, zinc, okay. I mean, there's really no reason to do zinc, to be honest. Osmium, I can do it, but there's no reason to, so that'll be like one of the last ones. The main ones at the moment that I'm going to be worried about are going to be the ones for gold, lead, silver, tin, copper, iron, dark iron, but that's going to be near the end because I really don't need that much dark iron for everything I want to do, and I still have a good amount built up already. But I mean, right now, like the very first one I'm going to do is yellowite, because yellowite will power everything and keep all this going. Right now, this is using very, very little fuel, and it's making more than enough steam. So it's so far so good, right? I do need to find a good way to get the steam in and out of this, as well as refuel it, though. So I'm not quite done yet. Let's see, that's input. Let's go ahead and set this to output. Oop, output. Yeah. Okay, good. So tell you what, I'm going to go ahead and get started boxing this thing back up, and I will see you when we're ready to start adding in some more stuff. Alright, so I freely admit this is really dark at the moment. while I do tend to overuse this factory wireframe here for what I want to do, this is the best material that I have. And while the Tyrian is, I actually don't want to use this color Tyrian, I actually want to try something else with chisel though. Something I noticed on this diamond chisel, it has this mode right here. It says panel, column, row, single. I think that refers to doing interactions with stuff in world, and I wanted to actually just put this up and see if we can actually see if it works. Right now it's set to panel, so let's see what it will do when we go ahead and right click on this. No, do we left click? Yeah, so it looks like it changes the 3x3 area. It's kind of neat, and we can easily cycle through the various kinds of stuff to see what looks best. So I feel a little silly about not figuring this out. If you put the actual chisel block in here that you want, in this case this is the Tyrian Black Futuristic Armor Plating block, if you put it in here, and it will automatically convert to that specific block, so there's no having to cycle through stuff to what you want. I wish I had realized that before I wasted a good 5 minutes just clicking like crazy. This definitely does simplify stuff. I still, however, wish I had the Wand of Equal Trade. Or that thing out of, what is it, or of Tools that lets you do it too. Either one of those would be extremely useful. I'm not really sold on the way this is looking so far. Though I have to admit that was a lot easier changing than the other one was. I think it's too busy. Alright, so you can probably tell I've made a few changes. There's no longer black on the walls, it's now on the ceiling. I went ahead and I reused the laboratory block that I have been using, because, I mean, really, this is a very nice block. It's a nice smooth texture. The only issue I have is you get a little bit of weird lighting going on, but I think that's because of the settings I have for my client to get a higher frame rate. And honestly, I'd rather have the higher frame rate, because you don't want to see this thing try to record when you're only getting 20 frames. It's not pretty. I am thinking of doing something to the ceiling to try to break that up a little bit. I do want to use that block, but I might run like ductwork or something, or at least make it look like I'm running ductwork to break it up a little bit. But that's all really that I'm going to go ahead and work on tonight for putting up and decorating stuff. I gotta tell you, I am kind of tired right now, and you do not want to be breaking blocks when you're tired. That nice rhythmic sound of the pick hitting blocks and breaking blocks, the little bloop sound whenever you pick it up, it will put you to sleep. You do not want to do that. So what I have over here, if you remember before the other day, I had this huge sprawling thing that basically went from this spot right over here all the way down to here. And that was just for the purpose of testing how well the ore processing for factorization went. Well, this is that compacted down as small as I could do with a little bit of Steve's Factory Manager thrown in. You can do this with just Steve's Factory Manager, and for most of the things we're going to do, it really wouldn't matter if I had the servos or not. Right now, the reason that I do have the servos is that for the purposes of, say, materials I don't get a lot of, like, say, yellowite, even though I leave my system running all the time, I don't end up with a ton of yellowite ore. So I'm not going to have enough of it to, I'm explaining this stupidly. Visual example works best, okay? So crystallizer, this is not the last step, but it's like the second to last. The very last is you run the resultant item through a furnace to cook it up. The crystallizer is, however, the slowest step in the chain. So you can see it here. It's so crystalline uranium. That basic idea, okay? You put in the reduced uranium chunks, or reduced yellowite in the case I'm talking about, as well as the aqua regia, which you only need to make once for any given crystallizer. You just put it in there, leave it there, it'll be fine. Now what'll happen is this will take about 20 minutes or so, and it will convert the reduced uranium into a crystalline uranium, and you have a 1 in 5 chance of getting an extra one for doing it. Now that takes a long time to do. However, if you have each of these slots filled out, they will each yield at least 1 and then a chance for extra. So that's not so bad, right? For things like tin, copper, and iron and stuff, you're going to get more than enough ore within the 20 minutes it's going to take this thing to cycle through, that it really won't matter if you distribute it out evenly enough, because it'll just fill up stack-wise anyway. For things like yellowite, though, I don't. I think on average I get maybe half a stack. I mean, it's not as much as I would have thought it would have been, but I'm also not using any lenses at the moment. So for things like yellowite, it's going to be really important to ensure that I get at least one of these in each slot before I start filling in more. And to do that, I tried using Steve's Factory Manager, and it kind of worked, but it broke. After each thing got like 4 or 5 of them put in here, it just started putting every single one in the same slot, which I didn't like. And even when it decided to cook everything off, right, it was still only putting in one slot, so I don't know what I did wrong. I'd like to know what I was doing wrong, but to be completely honest, there is very little to no documentation on Steve's Factory Manager. Most of what I've done with it, I've pretty much put together by looking at stuff and trying to figure out, and it's not so helpful. It also does not help that its wiki page has been down for quite a while, and it will continue to be down, because I don't think they care. So what I've done for this is actually not yellowite, this is dark iron. I really don't need a ton of dark iron, but I figured, hey, why not? It's one of the ores I have a ton of. The very process of lacerating this is going to double my ores already, so that's pretty good, and it's really simple to set up. But I figure, if we're going to do this, we might as well go for overkill. So what we have here, it's going in fly mode. We have the crystallizer in between 5 of these furnace heaters. That means that it doesn't actually have access to it by Steve's Factory Manager, so that's important to note. I probably need to fix that. I mean, I don't know if it actually needs to have 5 exposed to it, so what we can do for now is go ahead and break that. If I find that takes too long, I can fix it later. Alright, so now it does have access. We have a furnace. This is just a regular furnace to cook up the stuff that gets finished up by the process. And we have a slag furnace, which is used to pre-process the reduced chunks. Is there any other thing that I think I need? Yes, there is. Let's go ahead and break this. We're going to put down one more inventory cable. I should have one more barrel, on me, right? I do. Good. That is not even close to how I put you down. Alright, there we go. So far so good, right? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and set up some simple things in the Machine Inventory Manager here to take care of all of the processing for the non-crystallizer steps. The main thing that I really want to play with is the crystallizer stuff, and we're not going to get to that until after we've got everything else going so that we actually have resources to pull from. That is the fun part. Anyway, I'll be right back. The astute observer among you might realize that, no, I'm no longer in my world. My internet is pretty much conked out for the evening, and rather than bash my head in frustration trying to record 2 minutes at a time, I'm just going to go ahead and finish up explaining what I was trying to do here in my creative world that I originally designed the stuff in. This video will not be meeting the normal time I like to have it up just because of my internet issues, and for that I'm sorry, but I will set it to go ahead and upload while I'm at work. So what I have right here is a basic idea for factorization processing. I do not need the 2 steam turbines here, I just did it for symmetry. I'm a terrible person, I know. What happens is the iron ore that's in this barrel gets pulled out from the barrel itself, put over here to this acacia wood barrel. Let's actually go ahead and just give us some iron ore. So it gets pulled out, put in this barrel right here, which then gets ground up. The dirty gravel ends up resting in this diamond chest. Alright. The dirty gravel gets washed. I take care of that using Steve's Factory Manager, and the reason I'm doing that is because it is the easiest option. available to me that does not cost extra power, and I would prefer to use the mixer from Factorization, but there's just no good way to do it. I have a fluid tank here with a infinite water source from pressure pipes. This thing's fantastic. I can basically tell this tank here to just suck from that, and it is a 2-block infinite water source, and it's pretty nice. What I have is a bucket in here waiting to be used. This shows 2 buckets, right? I think this is accidentally duplicating the bucket, so I should not have 2 buckets here. If I take this out in a second, there's going to be another bucket in that top slot. Yeah. So that's not supposed to happen. But it doesn't stop its ability to actually process ores or anything. So I'm pretty sure it is genuinely duplicating the bucket. All right. The reduced chunks that we get from this right here are then sent over here to the crystallizer, which is loading up pretty good right now. It's not loading up evenly, which is what I was trying to get it to do. What happens is it loads up to say the first 15 in every slot evenly, and then it just dies, and that's unfortunate, not too terribly useful. Get out of my inventory, please. So, to get around that, I tried using Steve's Factory Manager. It didn't work. It would work every now and then, but it was not reliable, and I just don't want to deal with that. So I figured, you know what, why not let's use servos, because really I've not used them before. I've not seen many people use them before. The times I have seen them used, they're usually done for either killing mobs or for like harvesting sugarcane or something where you don't actually need to program anything. Before we get into this, I just want to say this right now, I'm not a programmer. The things that I can do that I know how to do, it's because I build on the work of other people. That's all I can say I've done. So this might be kind of clunky of an explanation for that, I'm sorry. The basic idea for servos is they work on an instruction stack. They will execute things that come into the stack as they come in with first come, first serve. So what I have right here, this is a rail that's set up for programming a servo. Each of these little marks on here gives a very specific instructions for the servo to follow. The one we have right here is telling the servo to go ahead, set it to import items, which means it is going to pick things up instead of putting them down. That will only come into play if the servo has an item shifter on it, so it's a shifter control. We're giving it the number 1, which by itself does nothing. Now we're telling it to take the top number that it has and target, well no, let's see, what is that? It's not going to tell me. I believe this is actually set to transfer rate. So what we're telling it is the top number that it has in a stack, set the transfer rate to that. So that will actually consume the number that is in the stack. So there's nothing in the stack now. We're then giving it 0. And we're telling it to target slot number 0, which then clears the stack. There's nothing in it. And the slot right here tells it to actually say at this point, execute actions. And it'll get all the way over here, which this is a trap that just stops the servo, so I don't have to go chasing after it. I had this fairly long because at one point I was trying to chain things together, fairly long to compact it. Unfortunately, certain actions don't work well in subroutines, I found out. But just to show you an example of how this works, I'm going to go ahead and put a servo down here. As long as we have this programmer in hand, we can see its instructions it's getting. So it was told export items 1, set transfer limit 0, and then set target slot. So right now that's not actually going to do anything for the servo itself. What we need to do is we need to set it to a subroutine, which we do by taking one of these guys and then just shift right clicking on the servo. That erases its memory that it had there and it puts it onto this. So the exact order it came in: export items 1, set transfer limit 0, set target slot. It's all it does, easy, simple. If we come on over here, though, this is the basic idea setup that I had for actually adding one item at a time to the crystallizer, and for one in each slot. The basic way that this works is a servo gets placed right here as a start rail. This rail is only ever reached at the very beginning, so after the servo started, you can get rid of it. It doesn't matter. The servo will come in this way. It'll follow this set direction, which just is going to keep telling it to go down the way I was already heading. This instruction right here is set to tell it to clear its memory if it has a number in it, which it will only do if it's been through at least once. It'll tell it to go to import items mode. The 1 sum duplication sum 1 sum. What that is doing is that is giving it the number 5. It's the most direct way I can think of to give it 5. And then it's telling it to pull out 5 items and to target slot -1, and that just means any slot. So this one subroutine is telling it to pull 5 items the next time it gives a socket signal from any inventory, from any slot in an inventory. And this thing right here is the thing that activates that instruction that it was given. Well, that's actually not right. It's this right here is actually setting something on the servo itself. Let's go ahead and come over here. So if we shift right click on this guy, or just right click or something, please. There we go. So we get the flow direction, the transfer mode, and then the amounts, all this stuff. That subroutine over there is adjusting this information. But it doesn't do anything until we actually tell it to, until we tell the socket to pulse, which is what this is doing. After it does that, it's going to pull 5 items out of this barrel. It'll hit this subroutine, which tells it to go back to exporting items one at a time and to target slot 0 to begin with. And that's also going to, it is going to clear the actual stack. There's not going to be anything in it. It's going to hit this arrow. It'll be forced to turn. Normally a servo would like to go straight across, and if it just went like that, it would not do anything good. It would break. So we're telling it to turn. It's going to hit the crystallizer, and it will eject 1 of its 5 items into the crystallizer itself, and then it's going to come along and hit another subroutine. This one is set to give it, push the number 1 to it, add the 1 in the existing item that's in the existing number that's in the stack, duplicate that, and then set target slot. And the reason we duplicate that is if we were to add 1 and 1 together with sum, that would consume both of those numbers and then give us 2. And then if we were to tell it to target that slot, it would then take that 2 to target the slot and then leave nothing in the stack. So that would use the number, we'd get the target slot we'd need, but we wouldn't have the number to build upon for further iterations of the process. By using duplication, what we end up with is 2 2s in the stack, and then the top one gets used, and we save the other one for use later on. And that's the main thing that when it comes to the servos, when you're carrying numbers and stuff, you have to duplicate a value if you're going to need it later. If you do not duplicate the value before you use it for a general process, you're going to use it up and lose it. So it's important to do that. So since this had no number, we're adding 1 to nothing. That's 1. So we end up with 1, we duplicate it, and then we're going to use that duplicated value. Well, actually, it's going to be basically right now the servo is going to have 1 and then 1 in the stack. It'll come here. This subroutine, we don't really need to look at it. What it's doing is it's telling the servo 5. It's giving 5 to the stack. Pushing 5. Let's get rid of these. So now the stack is going to be 5 1 1. What this is going to do, this is going to tell it, hey, go ahead, compare the most recent 2 items. Are they equal? If they are equal, it'll give it false. Oh, if they're equal, it'll give it true. Oh my god. If they are not equal, it'll give it false. That will consume the 5 and then the other value, so we'll be left back down to 1 value, as well as a true or false above it. We're going to come all the way over to here. This is a jump. If there is a true in the stack, it will skip the next instruction. No. Yes. Yes, 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 yes. So if true, it'll skip the next instruction. So that will only ever happen if the number that comes around right here is 5. So if we have 5 at this point that gets duplicated, they will be equal, at which point what's going to happen, the servo is going to go all the way over to here. It's going to hit this instruction. Normally this instruction would force it to turn and then go straight back towards the crystallizer. It won't do that. It's going to skip that. And it's going to come all the way over to here, hit this arrow that we started off with, right? It's going to take that 5. It is going to go ahead, forget the 5 ever happened. And then it's going to tell it to, okay, what I need you to do actually is you're going to go ahead and then start picking up, go to import mode, you're going to be picking up items from the barrel, and then it's going to start all the way over again, clearing the memory back to 0. You know, looking at that, I actually don't need to clear the 5. I could actually use that for the set transfer amount. That would save me a line. But yeah, so let's just go ahead and get this started so we can see what it looks like. For the purpose of not chasing after this thing, let's get a trap real quick. Let's put a trap on there. Get a servo rail. We're going to come down below here so this thing's facing the right way. And put a shifter on it. So that's locked. We're going to go ahead and put a block right there. And then as soon as we hit this, this thing's going to unlock and start going. So it just picked up items. It dropped one in here. You can see it's carrying 1. It's dropping another one. It's now at 2. Duplicates it, compares, gets false. Still has 2. And what this is going to do is it's going to go all the way around to the point that it hits 5. Once it hits 5, it's actually going to reset. I do not want to admit how long this took me to figure out how to do. Servos are actually really, really neat, but they are not without their quirks. And it's filling it up. So we should have 1 in every slot except the one it just did, which has 2. And yes, this is slow. This, however, like I said before, it just takes 20 minutes. So even though this is kind of slow, that's not bad. If it were really, really bad, we can actually set this thing to go faster. It would just use more charge. Anyway, I think this is pretty much going to be it for today's episode. I'm sorry that I was not actually able to show this to you in world. I think it's really, really neat. And I really do want to get more of these guys going. This is the general layout that I'm going to be using on top of the ore processing setups. Looking at it, I see a few things that I could do to simplify it a little bit. Like, I probably could eliminate this duplication right here and work it into either the subroutine here or the one over there. So it's not too terribly needed. I don't need one of the commands that are inside of this one either. I could just use that same value. Oh. Where is it? So for this one right here, I tell it to drop the thing, and then I set it import items, and then add this up to get 5 again. I don't need to do that. I just need to tell it I need to remove the drop, remove 1 1 sum, sum 1 sum. I need to remove all that. So it's just going to be import items, set transfer limit, and then -1 set target slot. So that's all I need to do. I can reuse that 5, and I feel silly for not realizing that earlier. But this is the general shape that I need to go for now. The only other thing I think I might be able to do is like combine these two, which will again save me 1. I hope anyway. No, I should be able to do that. It's like all these maybes. Anyway, before I thoroughly confuse anybody that is still watching this, I want to go ahead and thank you for watching. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave a message in the comments below. And as always, have a good day. And I feel sorry for any brain damage servos may have caused. They're so fun, but they're so confusing.